Hey y'all, I am VictorE, and over the course of my life, since about 2012, when I got out of the Marines, I've noticed a pattern in the way diagnoses work, or how they're being played out today. And it's almost like an identifier, right? A label or a brand on a person, rather than something that the person is simply working through, right? When somebody gets diagnosed, it's almost like they get branded, like this is who I am and this is who I'm always going to be, rather than something that they're learning to manage and get through. So in the years following my discharge in 2012, I've been diagnosed with, general anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, bipolar, PTSD, cptsd, and have been given a slew or a spectrum of medications to help me cope and deal with these symptoms. And what I've learned is that no amount of medication is going to do the work for me. And by that I mean there is a lot of unprocessed emotional content that happened in the moments in my formative years and in the Marines, on deployments, like these original incidents, these activating events, these moments where there was just so much information coming in to be processed, and not having the tools, the awareness to process them in the moment, left a lot of that information, a lot of that emotion unprocessed. And what I've learned in the years since has been that unless I process the emotion, rather than medicate it away, rather than shoo it away, rather than drink it away or smoke it away, I can learn to sit in and with it to like the point, to the capacity that I am able in that moment. Since a little bit before the Marines and immediately after, I relied a lot on cannabis to to help me bear the weight. And I mean, recently I was challenged for the duration of this course, the last 6 months, to go completely sober. And I'd already given up drinking before then, and I noticed as soon as I really decisively, I'd already quit for like a week, but when I really decisively quit cannabis, when it was no longer an option, there was a lot of feelings of uncertainty around, how am I going to be loved, around how am I going to cope, a lot of different things that surfaced. And for me personally, growing up, being neglected quite a bit, feeling abandoned in a few instances, in a few key instances, there was never any guidance around how to deal with troubling or overwhelming emotions. And that, if nothing else, is what I would like to help impart or help you with, and help myself communicate with this channel. So there's the more traditional way that people kind of know or are used to nowadays in terms of relating to their diagnoses. And there's the more, like, I don't want to say cutting edge or like bleeding edge, but the more updated version of how to relate to a person's diagnosis, in a way that isn't so shaming, right? In a way that we don't have to hide, in a way that's not as disempowering, and takes into account our context, right? Because medication or a diagnosis without the details of your personal experience, I feel like, in a way, is like giving us the medication in order to bypass the emotions so that we're able to live and continue on despite the weight in a society, or in a way of living that is not conducive to our mental and emotional health. So I guess what I'm imparting is the more trauma-informed perspective, and that is that my diagnoses, our diagnoses, don't define us. My diagnosis of MDD does not define me as a depressed person. Rather like me learning to be depressed, to express myself, my genetics, in a depressed way, was more in line with feeling like I didn't have any control, or like I was very helpless in my youth and my upbringing, my formative years. So it didn't feel like I had hope, or like I could have any goals or agency or pathways out of it. So it felt very defeatist, and I felt very defeated, which looks like depression, which looks like I'm already defeated. Please don't attack me anymore. And living in that state of fucking bum the shit out for such a long period of time shaped my personality and how I relate and interact with, my environment, my reality. Right, bipolar. And this is just how, what's been my experience. Please, don't take this as me saying this is what it is. This is what I've found to be true for me. For bipolar, being going from one extreme to the other, it felt like for me a way of setting a boundary, because I wasn't necessarily told or guided into feeling like I had the self-worth to establish boundaries. That is to say, when people were asking too much of me and I didn't know how to, fill my own cup, so to speak, what I would do is react very strongly as an unconscious way of establishing that boundary. And when I would be in my lows, that was not being able to establish a boundary within myself. So I would get into these very depressive states of dude, just please, for the love of God, don't ask any more of me. I can't give anymore. Let me just be alone. And I think unconsciously what I was trying to do was just recharge. And not having or not knowing any ways to recharge left me in that depressive state for a long time. And especially not knowing that it's okay, if not, preferable, so much more advantageous to feel fully whatever emotion comes up as a way of getting through it. So there's this two things, this quote by Joseph Campbell and another kind of I don't want to say cliche or truism, but the quote is, every emotion fully felt is bliss, and what we resist persists. So if you think about it this way, if I give myself permission to feel frustrated, suddenly I'm moving through the frustration, rather than I feel frustrated and maybe that drives people away. If I express myself in an angry or frustrated way, justified though it may be, valid though it may be, whatever reason is causing the frustration. And just something else that's coming up right now is how, like, feeling frustrated is a need or want going unmet. Me not feeling seen or feeling heard. So that breeds frustration. And that can manifest in an angry way if it's exacerbated, if I continue to resist it because I feel like I'm not allowed to feel it. Or again, if I'm not allowed to feel it, I might internalize that, so, like direct that at myself and get very depressed for feeling something that's very natural. So yeah, our what people say we have in terms of a diagnosis, be it anxiety, right, uncertainty. I mean, what if anxiety is the way that we learned to adapt in our childhood because we didn't feel safe at certain points? Maybe not throughout. Maybe I had a lot of really good days in my childhood. I was taken to, Wisconsin Dales on vacations. I was taken to, go see my friends and family in Mexico on vacation, on like summer vacations. And so ostensibly, apparently, that's a very rich, like luxurious childhood. But in a lot of other moments where I needed emotional attention and having parents and people around me who are used to themselves having compassion for them, empathizing with them and seeing, how they were raised, I can see that they didn't have the tools either to deal with someone else's emotions, let alone maybe even their own. So it comes back to how we learn to maybe even relate to even having wants and needs, let alone having them met, or what happens when they go unmet. And what the trauma-informed perspective teaches us is that by working our learned beliefs, behaviors, responses, we can learn to dissolve obstacles between ourselves and what we want and need. Like, we can rewire our brain through practice, right? We've been unknowingly practicing these responses for our whole lives. So it takes, a good amount of work to rework them, to change our neural pathways. And like my parents, especially my mom, went through a lot of, a lot of really rough stuff in her childhood. And so that in this way taught her on a genetic level, on a molecular level, what to expect and how to interact with her environment. So it changed her genetic makeup a bit within the parameters of her parents, like that lineage of genetics. And that's what made me, that's what composes my DNA. It's my mom and my dad, and what they went through and what they didn't heal within themselves before they had me. So it, like, in a lot of ways, a lot of the genetic factors were priming me to react in certain ways and letting me know, in like on a spiritual level, what my homework is in this life, right? I'm here as, I am this part of me that just is, this part of us that just, like we are, like this I am part of me that just always is, no matter how long my body lasts. There's this part of me that's here to be the love, right? I am the love that I need, whether or not the people around me also direct love towards me. And the same goes for all of us. There's this part of us that simply is, and I feel like that's who we are, down to our core. It's part of us that just always is, and that's the part of ourselves that we need to love us at the end of the day. Like, we are, that's my mantra, honestly, is I am the unconditional love that this moment needs. So whatever arises within me, be it a positive emotion, be it a negative emotion or experience, I'm here to love myself through that. I'm here to love myself come what may. Be it any diagnosis, any trial, any good thing, right? It's kind of like this too shall pass, and it passes best when we embrace it and like love it, not in a way that we're like fucking thrilled to be with it. Rather love it like we would love, you know, an unpotty trained pet, or an unpotty trained child, or, you know, a child that's throwing a tantrum. Like, we still have love for them, we still have love for ourselves, but we also want to learn the best ways to address whatever comes up. And just something that came up before I started this video was that I can change my environment, how I relate to my environment, and how I interact with those who are in my environment. I can communicate, hey, this is what I'm working through. Can you be okay with that? Can you help in any way? Can you just be aware and hold that space of non-judgment while I work through this? Because what I'll say is that as a formerly suicidal veteran and latchkey kid, child of neglect and abandon, is that life kind of stays the same. Life doesn't get easier, but we can get better at life. We can get better, especially the more we learn about ourselves, how we respond and react to external stimuli. That's what I heard recently, is we are not who we say we are, but how we respond and react. That's a closer indicator in terms of like our personality. And I feel like that's at least true for me. That's something for me to be aware of, is like how I react to you know, like a person who I love leaving, a person who I love staying, and how that makes me feel. But we get better at it the more we learn to manage our own energy, the more curious and open we are about ourselves. So if there's anything that this inspired, any questions that you guys have, I'd be more than happy to be of service to you. And if I don't know anything, I can absolutely make the time to find out and get back to you. So I hope this helps. If you think this will help somebody else, please, you know, share, like this video, comment. It helps boost how many people can also see and benefit from it. And if you want to learn to sit with yourself, I have some meditation videos that can definitely help with that. All right. Love you. Peace.